Now, Rotimi Kade, a rights analyst, is right here to discuss these happenings. Hi, Rotimi, do we have your audio now? Do you have you in one piece?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Amazing, amazing. Good to know it now, have you in one piece. Okay, I asked you earlier before that technical glitch, that looking at the story, talking about an arms deal between China and the U.S. How do you see with the furore that had gone on between the U.S. and China in recent past? How then do you see President Donald Trump representing America in this to China in this agreement?
Well, first of all, let me bring your mind back to how this whole agreement started. It started under the Obama administration in 2010 when President Obama signed that agreement with the then Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. And it's renewable every 5 years. Essentially, what this agreement is all about is to reduce the nuclear warheads and cap it at 1,550 each by both countries, and also the submarine and the missile warheads also should be reduced to about 700. And this agreement has been since 2010. Under the first term of Trump, he actually had no problem with that. And then the Biden administration also renewed that agreement. And the agreement was supposed to expire in 2026 after the 2021 agreement. But now, under the second term of President Trump, he felt that this agreement is absolutely insufficient without China, because China has advanced its capabilities over the last 10 years when this agreement was signed. And that's just the reason why President Trump believes that China should be included, because right now nobody can give account of how much nuclear warheads China has.
Looking at your last submission, remember also that the United States just accused Beijing just Friday of conducting a secret nuclear test in 2020, and that's perhaps one of the reasons for this proposal for a new arms deal. So with this back and forth, how do you then see a level playing field before we talk about even Russia's involvement? How do you see them being on the same page to start with?
Well, first of all, we don't know whether China will accept that invitation. The last count, we know that China has less than 1,000 nuclear warheads compared to the United States and Russia, which has at least over 5,000 each. And Beijing, in some ways, we know over the last decade or two, have made advancement in technology, and even the nuclear authorities, the Nuclear Atomic Agency, cannot, ascertain how much nuclear warheads China over the years have been able to build. I think concentration and attention has been given to Iran over the development of their uranium and nuclear missiles. So President Trump feeling like, you know what, we need to invite China to the table to see whether China can actually, give account of some of those things and make the world safer. But we don't know whether China is going to accept that invitation by President Donald Trump.
In any case, why do you think President Trump waited to the expiration of the treaty limiting U.S. and Russian missile and warhead deployment? Why did President Trump have to wait till the expiration of that treaty before coming up with this proposal?
Well, honestly, I think according to some, news analysts, they believe that because that particular deal was established by the Obama administration, Trump doesn't want to continue anything with the Obama footprint on it, and he feels that every other thing in it is flawed, and that's why the excuse of China not being included was actually pointed out.
So if China doesn't, let's try to play the devil's advocate now. Let's assume, let's role play, assuming China doesn't accept this invite what other options are left for the U.S.?
Well, if China doesn't accept this invite, it means that the world is going to be in a more dangerous situation because right now, Russia can also go haywire and said, you know what, I think it's high time we have to revisit this particular, nuclear deal, and that's going to take a long time, and they're not buying by no agreement. So China, the United States, and Russia can continue to develop and have more nuclear warheads. And of course, looking at the circumstances like what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, Russia won't mind to test it if need be. And at that point, nobody can ask Russia why they did so. And that's the reason why there's a need for an urgency when it comes to this New START deal, or whatever they want to call it.
Well, Rotimi, it's like you took it out of my mouth. Since you mentioned Russia, I was just going to ask you that how do you see Russia cooperating at such a time as this, knowing full well that it's got an interest ongoing, got something going on with for them in Ukraine?
Well, I think the world right now is in a very current situation because that particular deal was not renewed on Thursday. And that was not Russia's fault per se, because the Russian spokesman Peskov did say that they were waiting for the US to come to the table and renew that agreement. But it seems like the Trump administration has made up his mind that it's not going to sign that agreement. They wanted something new because they believe that it's a 10-year-old agreement, and things have changed over time. And countries like Russia, China, and some other countries that are beginning to have those capabilities should also be reflected on the new deal. But right now, Russia, because of the war between them and Ukraine playing as a proxy to the West, gives Russia enough excuse to say, you know what, we need to take a backseat for the first time and see whether our relationship with the U.S. is something that we want to go forward with. And right now, the only mediator is the United Nations Atomic Agency, a subsidiary of the United Nations. And you know what the United Nations has been over the last, few years, especially under the Trump administration. It's been more like they can't really do much. They can't mediate at this time, and this makes it even more dangerous.
Now, Rotimi, if I asked you or anyone around about China's nuclear threat, I can guess what your response would be. But are you aware that as we speak, China is still denying this narrative, saying, as a matter of fact, it rejects in totality such narrative as China nuclear threat, that the U.S. is actually the culprit in global aggravation of arms. So, I mean, how do you see this playing out? I mean,
Well, I can tell you that China will never come out to tell you how much, capabilities they have, what's the amount. But, over the years and even during the celebrations, we see China coming out during the lunar celebration or whatever, the New Year celebration in China. We see, them displaying some of their ammunitions and weapons. And they've also, made it, abundantly clear that they can defend themselves at any point in time. They've done so many tests. They are threatening Taiwan to take over Taiwan. It's only a status of, uh, a superpower that will make a country want to take over or annex another country. So in this instance or this scenario, the U.S. is in no doubt that China, even though they deny it, it means that China absolutely, if not having more capabilities in terms of the warheads, more than the two countries, the United States and, of course, Russia. Don't forget, there's another big player in this, and that's Britain. Britain also cannot be excluded from this. They are secondary players when it comes to However, now that the U.S. And Britain relationship is a little bit, on the downside, we don't know how this is going to play out. But I think the big players need to come out and, cease fire and, kind of dial tension and allow, peace to reign and, let this agreement go forward as quickly as possible.
Well said. Well, have you seen Darrell Kimball's statement, the director of Arms Control Association? Have you seen his statement, Darrell Kimball, saying that the U.S. should take concrete evidence that China and Russia are conducting secret nuclear tests to the treaty governing body? So how do you expect a country like the U.S. to come up with such an evidence? How do you come by such an evidence? Isn't that the work of the intelligence?
Well, I think that if the U.S. want to know how much, ammunition, if there's a secret build up to China's superpower status, I think the U.S. has all the technology to actually see or detect China's, threat. But from what we know, the New START agreement actually, one of the things that stand out for me was the fact that there could be some sort of a mutual inspection. The mutual inspection meaning that the U.S. can set up an inspection or perhaps trigger an inspection team that will go to Russia to confirm if they have what they say they have, and vice versa. But because China is not in this agreement, so they're not bound by this a nuclear inspection, the mutual nuclear inspection that U.S. and Russia are actually under. But now that they want to include China, most likely we're going to be seeing that. But currently, China is not bound by any agreement, for an independent or mutual inspection.
Rotimi, I hope you do know, I'll let you go now, but I hope you do know that this is a very serious situation, because since 1972, this is the very first time that China and the U.S., with the expiration of this treaty, this is the first time that China and the U.S. Are not being bound by any constraint in discharging their arms anywhere in the world. And this is a very precarious situation. Thank you very much indeed for being part of Arise America. We'll see how this pans out. Hopefully, we'll have you again for more conversations. Thank you very much indeed.